blooming onion. The blooming onion was invented by Outback Steakhouse in 1988 and has never left the menu because it cannot leave the menu. Removing it would cause a customer revolt. A single whole onion is cut into over 100 petals without separating the base, battered and deep fried until it opens like a flower. One blooming onion contains over 1,900 calories before the dipping sauce. The dipping sauce adds another 200. Outback sells approximately 40 million blooming onions per year. Food critics have called it excessive, nutritionally irresponsible, and completely impossible to stop eating once started. All three descriptions are accurate simultaneously. Onion rings. Onion rings and French fries have been competing for the same position on American menus since the 1960s, and the argument about which is better has never been resolved. The first published onion ring recipe appeared in a 1933 Crisco advertisement, making them a product of corporate food marketing rather than culinary tradition. Burger King introduced onion rings nationally in 1975, and they became the default alternative to fries at fast food chains across America. The ongoing debate about onion rings versus fries generates more passionate responses at American restaurants than most political discussions. Both sides have strong opinions. Neither side is changing their position.
French onion soup. French onion soup requires caramelizing onions for 45 minutes to an hour before anything else happens. Most restaurants lie about this. Properly caramelized onions are deep amber, sweet, and almost jam-like. Onions cooked for 10 minutes are still sharp and barely brown. The difference in flavor is enormous and immediately detectable. The soup became popular in American restaurants in the 1970s when French bistro culture arrived in the United States. The combination of rich beef broth, wine, and onions topped with a crouton and melted Gruyere cheese under a broiler produces something that feels simultaneously simple and luxurious. Americans order it for the cheese. The onion is the actual point.
Caramelized onions. Caramelized onions are involved in one of the most persistent lies in cooking content. Recipe after recipe states that onions caramelize in 5 to 10 minutes. They do not. Proper caramelization requires 40 to 60 minutes of slow cooking with occasional stirring until the natural sugars in the onion concentrate and turn deep golden brown. A New York Times food writer published an article in 2012 exposing this widespread recipe deception, and it generated more reader responses than almost any other food article that year. Millions of home cooks had suspected they were doing something wrong. They were not doing anything wrong. The recipes were wrong. The debate about sweet versus well-done caramelized onions continues in professional kitchens, regardless. Pickled red onions. Pickled red onions require 4 ingredients: red onion, vinegar, salt, and sugar, and 30 minutes to prepare. They became the defining condiment of American food culture in the 2010s when the farm-to-table movement and social media food photography arrived simultaneously. The bright pink color photographs better than almost any other condiment. They appeared on tacos, grain bowls, avocado toast, burgers, and sandwiches at restaurants across America within a span of 3 years. Food that photographs well spreads faster than food that merely tastes good. Pickled red onions taste good and photograph beautifully. This combination makes them essentially unstoppable as a food trend. Onion dip. Onion dip was invented in 1954 when an anonymous home cook in California stirred a packet of Lipton onion soup mix into a container of sour cream. The recipe spread by word of mouth so rapidly that Lipton began printing it on the back of their soup mix packaging within a year. It has appeared on that packaging continuously ever since. American supermarkets sell millions of containers of pre-made onion dip annually, despite the fact that the homemade version takes 30 seconds to prepare and costs less. Onion dip at an American party is not optional. Showing up without chips and onion dip to a Super Bowl party communicates something specific about your commitment to the occasion. Grilled onion slabs. Thick-cut onion slabs grilled over direct charcoal heat until the exterior chars and the interior softens into sweetness are the most underrated item at any American barbecue. They require no preparation beyond cutting, seasoning with salt, and placing on the grill. They are ready in 10 minutes, they cost
almost nothing. They improve every piece of meat they are served alongside. Despite all of this, grilled onion slabs remain an afterthought at American barbecues, where the meat receives all the attention and the onions are treated as a secondary consideration. Pitmasters who have figured this out do not volunteer the information freely.
Onion jam. Onion jam, also called onion marmalade or onion confit, is onions cooked slowly with sugar, vinegar, and wine until they reduce into a dark, glossy preserve with an intense, sweet, savory flavor. It appeared on upscale American restaurant menus in the 1990s as part of the Bistro Fund and has never fully left. A small spoonful on a cheese board or inside a gourmet burger costs restaurants almost nothing to produce and adds a flavor dimension that no standard condiment replicates. Onion jam is what happens when a cook applies the same patience to onions that a winemaker applies to grapes. The result is something that bears almost no resemblance to the raw ingredient it started as.
Stuffed onions. Stuffed onions appear in the culinary traditions of almost every culture that grows onions, which is most of them. The technique is identical across traditions. The center of the onion is removed, the cavity is filled with seasoned meat, rice, or vegetables, and the whole thing is baked until the onion softens and the filling cooks through. Greek jamista uses rice and herbs. Middle Eastern versions use lamb and pine nuts. American versions use ground beef and breadcrumbs. Every culture that discovered that a hollowed onion makes a natural, edible container arrived at this conclusion independently. The stuffed onion is one of the oldest cooking concepts on Earth and shows no signs of becoming obsolete.
Onion Baji. Onion Baji are deep-fried Indian fritters made from thinly sliced onion mixed with chickpea flour, cumin, coriander, and green chili. They originated in South Asia and became one of the most ordered starters at Indian restaurants in Britain, where they outsell almost every other appetizer on the menu by a significant margin. Britain's relationship with Indian food is so deep that chicken tikka masala was declared the national dish in 2001. Onion Baji arrived in Britain through South Asian immigration in the 1950s and 1960s and became embedded in British food culture within a generation. A Friday night curry without onion Baji as a starter is considered incomplete by a significant portion of the British population. Piselladier. Piselladier is a French flatbread from Nice covered entirely in slowly caramelized onions, black olives, and anchovies. It predates pizza and influenced its development as Genoese sailors and traders moved between the French and Italian Rivieras for centuries. The name comes from pisella, a Niçois condiment made from fermented anchovies. Piselladier requires the same extended caramelization that French onion soup demands, meaning the onions must cook for at least 45 minutes before the flatbread is assembled. Most versions sold outside Nice cut this time significantly. People from Nice can identify a shortcut Piselladier immediately and will tell you about it at length.